Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and everyone around the country, for the most part, if you're not a racist, is celebrating his life, his legacy, and also his philosophy. And you're probably very familiar from what you read while you were in elementary school and also speeches you've seen of what he thought about racial justice. But unfortunately, one of the things that's not often talked about are MLK Jr.'s views on economic justice. And so we're going to be spotlighting that aspect of his philosophy today. And so we've gone through, we've gotten some of his quotes that really get to the heart of what he thought about the pervasive poverty of his time and what he thought the importance of that, not just in terms of the black community in America, but across racial lines in America. So here are some of the things that MLK Jr. said at the time. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered.
Let's pause there for a second, John. See, every time I read Martin Luther King quotes, I think, my God, this man was brilliant. Okay, I mean, I was going through the MLK Memorial just about a month ago, and one quote after another, and I was like, whoa! And think about how long ago that was, and what's taken over our society in that 40 years that we've had in the meanwhile, right? Materialism, militarism, and all the things that he exactly outlined. And at the time they were bad, but they were about to get worse, and they have. So John's exactly right in pointing out it's not just about racism. He was right about Vietnam, and he was proven right in the long run, and he was definitely right about the rising inequality. And the essence of that quote is the machine. The corporate machine has grown larger and larger and greedier. Meanwhile, our wages continue to go down, and their profits and their executive salaries continue to go up.
Yeah, I mean, we've made some progress on racial grounds, and so just looking at that, it's easy to look back at MLK Jr. and say, well, look, we got what he wanted, but did we get what he wanted? Let's hear some more quotes. One day we must ask the question, why are there 40 million poor people in America? And when you begin to ask that question, you are raising questions about the economic system, about a broader distribution of wealth. When you ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy. You begin to ask the question, why is it that people have to pay water bills in a world that is 2/3 water? That's pretty clever, right there. Good point.
Well, now look, there are issues.
There's a response to that.
Seawater, but no. But look, he's going to the point that we're going to get to in a second about how some few people have so much money. And is it possible that we take care of our own? It was 40 million poor back then. It's probably a bigger number
far
now.
More now.
Right. And so can we get a society that's just for everybody? And he's going to give that beyond racial lines in a second as well.
When the tides go in and the tides go out, why are we still paying for the tides? Good question. Anyway, so he goes on to say, the Western arrogance of feeling that it has everything to teach others and nothing to learn from them is not just. And that is a great point. Now, I know I'm anti-American by acknowledging that that's a good quote, but we can look right now to other countries. For instance, in Scandinavia, I always love to go back to that you ask countries around the world, people in countries around the world, how happy are you with the system you live in? And the Scandinavians are so much happier than us. How can we then say we have nothing to learn from them? That their tax system has to be wrong. Their foreign policy has to be wrong, when the end result is far more happiness for the average Norwegian, for instance.
Two super quick points about that. One on healthcare, that's my favorite one. We're number one, except we're number 37. So we might want to look at what 1 through 36 is doing to see if there's a better system. But they don't say that by accident. They use jingoism as a tool to say don't change anything, because the system is working for the top 1%. It's not working for us, it's working for them. It's that false patriotism is an excuse to keep the system as it is. And that's what MLK was pointing at. And by the way, the second point is in Iceland, when they took down the banks, they nationalized them. And then later, by the way, brought them back into private hands. It worked perfectly well and much better than our system.
They weathered it much better than us. Canada too, although they didn't go to that great lengths. And so one final quote that really gets into how he saw the problem of economic justice in America and abroad as being not just about black Americans. He says, they see life as a long and desolate corridor with no exit signs. And not only Negroes at this point. I've seen my dreams shattered because I've been through Appalachia, and I've seen my white brothers along with Negroes living in poverty. And I'm concerned about white poverty as much as I'm concerned about Negro poverty. And you don't learn about this side of MLK Jr. growing up, even in the states where they still teach about MLK Jr. when you're growing up. You don't learn about this. And it's not by accident. It's not that the individual teachers are trying to prop up a system that has, by and large, passed them by as well. It's just that it doesn't fit into the driving capitalist philosophy of America.
So if they make you feel good and MLK helped us get beyond racial inequality, well, that's happy news for everybody. But if they let the good people in Appalachia know that he was looking out for you and that we didn't solve that problem, that's an issue for the people currently in power, because they, once again, don't want to change the system. The core message of Martin Luther King, without the placards, was change. And he meant it, right? And he meant it for all Americans. So that's the message they want to bury as they celebrate good and justifiable things that Martin Luther King did that we all acknowledge and that we're all incredibly happy about. But don't forget the rest of the message.